XRP just broke to the upside a couple of days ahead. That was great. Now we are doing the retest. But what if we make this a fake out and go back down? If we do, then this double bottom possibility which exists now in the market will be invalidated. If that happens, then the trendline support, which has been there from few months, will be invalidated. We will break to the downside. We will search for the supports. So if that happens in next 24 hours, what are we looking at? With Bitcoin staying still inside that bull flag, Bitcoin dominance slowly climbing up, and the price action being a little bit choppy in the entire market right now, what do you think is going to happen? Because at this point, the total crypto market does convey a story here. And along with the Bitcoin dominance and some of these news, I would say, okay, let's actually think a little bit differently. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family. The normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% in this world. We actually shared this thought process saying be cautious. And right now we are watching. Yes, we had the market running higher, but today, last 24 hours in the first 100, you don't have a lot of them doing that 20, 30, 40% moves. Instead, we are watching a lot of them trying to correct down. But yes, the sentiment hasn't actually shifted. We are still watching how things are evolving. Great. But if you actually look at the news and narrative, when most respected people in the market give you this opinion about that particular post, what do I mean really by saying this, right? When I actually listen to this guy and giving this thought process, tomorrow is better than today. Yeah, that's true. But usually what happens in the market is that these guys doesn't actually mean what they say. Instead, they try to give you a thought process and do the opposite. So when they were actually negative on the market, they tried to push the price as low as possible and to buy as cheap as possible. Now when they are giving you this idea that, this is a global asset, it's going to be, there is no government supporting this, no government can seize this, that kind of story. It is positive in medium to long term for sure. But I'm looking at this scenario saying like, okay, what if, maybe I'm wrong, but what if these guys are about to take some profit, the price is about to drop? We may come back down to revisit some of these levels of support range, which would still be healthy considering the trend line which we are moving. We're still moving to the upside, coming a little back down to test that moving average never means anything bad. It's just making this stronger, giving a lot of other people opportunity to buy at a lower point. But if you are long this asset and you are here for like next couple of years, you don't actually care. But what matters is that the short-term fluctuation. How do you prepare yourself mentally to see what's coming, right? What if the possibility shown by the MACD plays out? MACD crossed to the downside, price actually slows down. It slows down towards 28,300. That is still a possibility. We cannot neglect that fact. And if that's to happen at a time when the Bitcoin dominance is dropping, that is positive. It's okay. But if Bitcoin dominance is actually increasing, that is not. That means whatever money is there in the market, it's running to safety within crypto, which they consider as Bitcoin. Now, this is, yes, of course, excluding Bitcoin and Ether. But right now, if you actually go look at Ether, you don't actually get the narrative saying people are running into that. We had a breakout. We went higher. We retested that range. We are trying to move higher. But the price action does look weak, and short-term horizon shows you a rounded top coming back down. And if this is breaking this particular level of 1900, that means now we are talking about 1800. The price can actually come back down another $100, create some level of corrective action in the market. So you actually go on a daily or a weekly to see like, okay, what does that actually mean? On a daily, it still looks okay because you're just retesting this level, which is a retest of the pattern itself. That is completely fine. But The issue develops when you actually notice the fact that we're putting in a higher high in Ether at a time when the RSI is showing you a double top possibility, which shows some level of divergence. And that means you cannot actually trust the current move in the market. You should be cautious. Now, I've said this a couple of days back when the market was still running up after even testing a lot of trades by myself, going in the market, taking 10, 15 trades. I've informed you guys like, okay, this is the scenario, this is what's happening in the market. And I think being cautious is the healthy way right now, because very few alts are following Bitcoin, and you can actually see that. And we also had covered all of them in the Patreon. So if you're actually interested in that, you can actually look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. We are right now covering a lot of different assets inside the market, running an Ask for TA session where you drop which asset you want to see, and I do that for you guys, right? So if you actually sit in the market right now and you're asking the question like, okay, what should I do? First, ask yourself, what's your time horizon? Are you a short-term guy? Are you a medium-term, long-term guy? Depending on that, next question is, what's your risk tolerance? If your risk tolerance is comparatively low, then, even if you are willing to take risk and your actual ability to take risk is low, that may not be the perfect combination. So you need to actually understand what the market is showing you. And if you have dry powder, it's okay. You're waiting for lower prices to buy back in. But if you don't, now look at your positions. If some of these assets are showing you a red flag, now you need to reconsider that, right? You need to learn what that project is about. You need to look at the liquidity. If the liquidity is dropping and the price here drops, that means that particular asset in your portfolio may take a big hit. So when you're here, the primary aim is to learn from the market, is to adopt to the market conditions, right? So one of the things you can do is look at the short term to see what exactly is the market trying to show you. Is it actually trying to bounce off? Is it actually trying to go lower? If you follow the patterns as we see here, you'll understand the fact that, okay, that was like a 2-candle continuation pattern. Then we followed to the downside, the direction of the momentum. Right now, we are all again watching similar pattern, 2-candle reversal pattern. And if you actually break this particular low, that means you're actually going much, much lower. Now, if you actually take the pattern side of things, you can say, okay, there is a formation, which is a rising wedge, which usually breaks to the downside. We understand that fact. So now the question is, okay, what's the measured move? You can actually take the median point or the midpoint here and say, okay, there is around 7% probability. So if you measure that 7%, where does it actually come? It comes around 1750. Now, is that a bad thing? I would say no, it is not. Because usually whenever you drop that fast, now you bounce back. So that can be a wick to the downside, and that can be a perfect retest of this particular channel which we broke before. So a bounce off after that should be the perfect shakeout scenario. Now, we need to also follow Bitcoin. We need to also see whether the money is going into the Bitcoin side or it's actually coming into the altcoins. Because on a daily chart, this is what we are watching on the Bitcoin dominance. It's trending higher. Now, yes, it can correct a little bit lower, come back down to the support and then bounce off. That's a great thing. That means alts are getting some relief during this time. Alts are getting more money. That's positive. But then if you are in the market, you are also looking for assets which have a lot of fundamentals, right? When you actually get these kind of statements, that means a lot for some of these projects. Regulation is not harming us. It's not stopping us from doing business, but it's actually enabling. So the projects which are actually focusing on central bank digital currency is actually preparing an infrastructure. So the governments actually want them because the government's public sector is not that fast. And we understand the fact that private sector always leads with the innovation, the technology, whatever they can actually do to make life better. That's the only way they can be profitable. They're all profit motivated, but in a good way, right? They create value for other people. Now, with that narrative in, you also consider like, okay, what's happening around the globe? And then you see Volunteer actually coming out and giving you the Fed now and the test, which is actually being launched in July. I would say this, if you already knew the connection between Ripple's API usage in Volante, and now you're like, okay, these guys actually know what they're talking about. So there is a possibility that Ripple is actually playing a big role in all of this. And when you actually listen to this and get the clarity, like, okay, Ripple's liquidity volume is surging. Yeah, but not in the US, Asia Pacific. That is actually something you should think about. In the Latin America, they're getting more attention, more adoption. In Asia Pacific, they're getting that. In Middle East, they're getting that. So automatically worldwide, they are branching out. They are actually giving more depth into the market. So fundamentals is a big part when the price action goes bad. Because if you really don't know what that asset is doing, then you're like, oh, let me sell this asset and run out. But if you're so sure about that asset, now you're not selling. That's the only reason why XRP still holds that long. A lot of people understand this asset is not going anywhere and it's going to take a big part of the payments market. Even if it's like 30%, it's a big chunk because you have a lot of competitors in this market. So on the price action side, on the macro, yeah, we would like to see this bounce off, because if not, we're going to come back down to test this trend line, which may not be, that great to watch in the short term when it's doing that, especially. But when it bounces off, okay, now it feels good. But yeah, if we break this, now we would like to see that the price holding onto this level and bouncing off, which would create a macro double bottom possibility here. That would be superb. Right now, it feels like it's a double top, which is not yet completed. So the market is trying to say different stories. Now, what we are doing here is to try and see which one has the higher odds. Because here on the daily, it shows the RSI is actually trying to make a higher low. MACD is trying to cross to the upside. We want to see how things end up. Now, when you're in the market, and we do understand all these factors of volatility in the market, and you are like, okay, I get some clarity. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm happy for that. And if you think like that, please do hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want updates like these on the time for a lot of different assets, you can look at the Patreon, where we are going through a ton of these crypto assets right now. So guys, that's it for today, and I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.